So what makes it different? The main thing is an espresso machine that you buy has a philosophy of coffee behind it. And largely those are Italian philosophies, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is a machine that doesn't actually have a philosophy. The idea is that you can do anything. You need to know what you want to do. And what we've done is we programmed the whole history of espresso machines in there, from lever machines to constant profile to innovative, low pre-infusion. You tap it, you try it. And if you like how that tastes, you can slowly develop your skills and play with it and get the perfect espresso. So it's kind of like the whole history of espresso machines in one. Someone with less talent using the machine is going to know they have less talent.
Okay.
And the curves are going to look terrible. They're going to post it on a form, and everyone's going to say you're too coarse, or please send us a photo of your basket. And you saw in my demonstration this thing where I ground, and then the grounds were all over the place, and then I tapped, and then I made it worse, right? And that preparation of that coffee puck takes some time to develop. And the problem is that, at least in my experience with espresso machines, is that you don't know what you've done is better or worse. So what I tried to make was a tool and an espresso machine that would tell you that was good, that was terrible. And then over the years, we're going to make better espresso. The main thing about coffee extraction is that when you pull the coffee, you actually don't know what's going on. The main variables of pressure, flow, and temperature of the coffee are not actually reported. So the main reason you want this machine for R&D is because you actually want to know the temperature of the infusion, you want to know the actual pressure of the coffee, not the pump, and you want to know the flow rate, the contact time of the solvent, which is water. And then as you discover what tastes good, you'll be able to vary those parameters. So just roughly speaking, for example, the lighter the roast, the faster the water rate should be. The darker the roast, the slower it should be. The more chocolate flavors you want, the higher pressure. The more you want fruity citrus flavors, the lower pressure. But you need to be able to see what's happening. And traditional espresso machines haven't given you any of that data. And so you've just needed raw talent to figure out what you should do. The question is, do I have to throw out my old machine if I'm using the decent machine for R&D? And I'd say it depends. Right? If you've got a machine that's incredibly unflexible, then you might pull an amazing espresso on the decent machine and then not be able to recreate it on your traditional machine. And you're just going to be really frustrated and angry at the world if that happens. So I wouldn't recommend using our machine for R&D if in production you have a really primitive machine. That being said, a lot of the traditional machines through plumbing can do a lot of sophisticated things. So you can change the flow constrictor, you can adjust the temperature of the boiler, you can measure the pressure, you can do all these things. They generally make it hard to make the recipe because there's so much fiddling. But if you use my machine to figure out the recipe and then get some test gear out, you can probably make your traditional machine make a close approximation of what you did with the decent. So there's two myths that are quite common in the espresso world that are being pretty hard to be credible still. Okay? The first is that the more you fuss with the grounds, the better it will be. So people who sift or use some sort of grooving tool and tap and do this and that and the other thing, what we're seeing is the more you fuss with your grounds, generally the worse the coffee. And when you watch really good baristas, they're like 5 seconds for the puck. Like grind, tap, 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 done. And when the home barista goes and they spend 2 minutes and then the shot is terrible, well, that's what we've known for a while. But now the evidence is pretty strong that when you make a shot with a decent, if you really fuss with it, the curves will probably show you the puck is falling apart. So good grinder, minimal fussing is what we're learning. More fussing, distribution tools, bad. The second thing, which is a big myth, is that people have generally wanted espresso to start really fast. Like within 5 seconds of turning the water on, I want it to come out. And it turns out that they're making very uneven extractions. And we see that by measuring the amount of water into the puck versus the water coming out of the puck. the shots that are slowly speeding up, well, they're really uneven extractions. There's dry spots in the cups, and they're not tasting as good as they should. And so one of the things we've really learned is that everybody is pre-infusing far too little. They're starting the shots much too aggressively, much too soon, and our espresso quality is really failing for that. The biggest discovery we made recently, people have been satisfied with extraction rates in 19 to 20% range. Scott Raoul just published last week an article where he's getting 24% extraction rates, which is unheard of. And he's doing it with a cheap home grinder from Peralta. He's doing it by using pour-over technique, but with an espresso machine. He's doing an espresso start, and then he's letting the coffee bloom, and then he's rising the pressure. And that's a technique that people haven't done before, and it's tasting really good and yielding extraction rates we didn't think we could reach. Was this lane machine able to put to rest any points of debate? Not yet. It's still too new. And there's certain beliefs that are too strongly held that even in the face of evidence are not going to go away for a long time. I think it's going to take people tasting, because anything you read on the internet is all very nice and impressive, but until you taste it, it tastes great. So I'll give you an example. There's still a number of people who think that pressure profiling is useless. And it's just arguably not the case. Right? It's just, you can have shots that have varying flow or varying pressure, and they just taste better. We've known this since lever machines. What I would argue is those people have been making bad shots with pressure profiling, and that's why. But even now, in decades of pressure profiling, people believe adamantly that pressure profiling is useless. And I don't know if you can convince everybody, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. I agree. So is decent espresso the fourth wave of coffee? I don't subscribe to waves at all.
Okay.
I don't see that. What I see is generations of people. And each generation learns from their mentors, and then they have to figure out how are they going to add to the sum of human knowledge. And third wave, if you want to call it third wave, was about quality all of a sudden. And we have a fair amount of quality coffee. And is it fourth wave? I don't really know. I don't care. All I know is that all the people who are authorities on quality tend to be 40, 50 years old. And all the people who have really interesting new ideas tend to be 20, 30 years old. And that's as it should be. That's how it is in every discipline. And this is just part of the tool set that are going to lead this current generation to add to the pile of knowledge. I guess probably the biggest surprise I had in coffee is I thought I wasn't very sophisticated, because I thought that most coffee tasted terrible. And I'd go even to really good coffee shops, I'd be like, I can't drink this. This is like an acid bomb with asparagus and lemon pith, and And it turns out a lot of people actually believe this as well. That a lot of coffee is just terrible, and it's part of the experimentation of creating something new. But I think that there's a certain emperor has no clothes aspect to coffee, that if we're going to spread what's called specialty coffee, which I would just say is good coffee, it actually has to be good. It can't just be different. People have to drink it and have a yum reaction. It has to be heart and head. And there's too much coffee out there right now that's all head. And I was really surprised how many people started nodding when I got into this discipline and started going, yeah, I agree with you. Interesting coffee, intellectual, but I wouldn't want it for breakfast.